Welcome to tonight's podcast. I'm John, your host, and I am joined by the great Dom.
Oh, the great Dom. God, that's a lot to live up to. Hi, this is Dom. It's great to be here.
I thought I'd raise the roof there, raise the expectations straight off the bat.
God, really set the bar high, John. Really.
Yes, I have. So this is the first episode of our podcast, and it's going to hopefully be a continuing series of podcasts coming within the next few months. We have got a website up right now. It's dscast.weebly.com, and it's a website that's more or less just basically dedicated to bringing a bigger audience to cult films, obscure, anime, anything, and basically give Blu-ray reviews on a constant level. Dom's actually going to be part of it as well. So,
hi. Yeah, I'm part of this as well. Maybe do you want to let people know what DS stands for?
Yeah, so DS, not Nintendo DS, but it stands for right now Director's Suite. Now, Director's Suite is a label that Madman actually releases very good movies on, but that's a temporary name, and we're just going to see what happens. We're just going to roll with it, I guess.
We're just riding the coattails of Madman, so.
We are, and they're fine with it. They're fine. They're actually quite happy with it.
Yeah, why not?
Some would honor their label. So I guess tonight's episode is episode number 1, and it's dedicated to an excellent label called Cinema Cult. And Cinema Cult is actually part of Shock Entertainment. So just quickly, Dom, I mean, obviously, Shock, they released the excellent Trauma DVDs back in the day.
Yes, they did.
They set quite the example, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it was unfortunate that the Trauma re-releases didn't quite capture the same level of attention to, the special features that people who follow these types of genres live for. But I remember the original releases having just a multitude of sometimes really obscure, weird, random special features, but I think that was the fun of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just looking at my collection in front of me of the Cinema Cults, and I'm thoroughly impressed with what they've put out, and also with what they're about to be putting out in a few months.
Yeah, same here.
And I really think that they're a label worth talking about and praising just for, the caliber of stuff. And even, you look at the releases, and there's a pretty varied selection of stuff here. You go from the extreme gore stuff to, slightly more mainstream stuff to European stuff. You've got, a little bit of everything.
Even like art house films like Vanishing Point and Past the Glory. So it's very interesting. The reason that I want to dedicate an episode to it is because obviously I want there to be more recognition for this label on a wider scale, because obviously in the US we've got Scream Factory, in the UK we've got Arrow Video, and they tend to be getting a lot of attention, but no one's really talking about Cinema Cult as much in an international scale.
And that's our job with this podcast, so there we go.
That is, to spread the hype, because essentially these releases are probably the definitive version of these movies, and also they're just awesome. That's all I can say. It's my amazing summary.
Well, I was going to say, in the case of City of the Living Dead, I mean, you can't get a cleaner print than that unless you have the actors bloody acting it in front of you in your own living room. I don't think you can get more, realism there. The picture quality, the sound quality, the supplementary features that are provided. I mean, these are definitive sets.
Yeah, they're as good as it's going to get, honestly. I mean, like you said, it looks like a 35mm print if I was screening it in my room. So they're obviously sourcing the best film transfers they can get for these. They're not doing a dodgy job like some companies and try and just put out whatever they can and not really give a shit. So that's why I have to praise them.
You can tell that, and what I love about it, you can tell that they know their audience. They very much know their audience. And knowing, the nerds that we are as horror collectors, the love of the slipcase.
Yes.
And, the little slip cover, and each one comes in its own little individual slipcase with fantastic cover art. And I guess in some cases, a lot of them are just the reproduction, like in, Dead and Buried, like that's the same as the Blue Underground release.
The theatrical poster, yeah.
But then I love like the poster art for the Flesh for Frankenstein, the Blood for Dracula. Like they're just really beautiful. Like these are worthy of display. Like each and every single one of them, I'd be proud to just display them as is. I don't see how you can really top these releases. No. I think that, you know, they're setting the bar extremely high.
They are. I mean, and I think that they are, because they come in hard boxes, and they remind me of much of the European hard boxes, because they actually have a lot of thickness and depth to them, and also similar. I mean, because I also have a few Screen Factory titles, and they tend to come in these little flimsy little slip cases that get damaged very easily. And these are durable hard boxes. These come in, and they match. They actually look nice on the shelf.
And once again, you've got them all lined up, and they make a nice little collection there, and it just feels so complete. And you're like, I've got a nice little set of grey. So yeah, it feels good.
Yeah, a collection's great. I mean, that's the whole idea of it. Is it kind of reminds me again like something like Criterion would do, where they all match. Or even the Palace Explosive days. It feels like we've entered the Blu-ray era of Palace Explosive.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, you know, some of these would have been because I know definitely the Beyond was released on Palace Explosive. I'm just trying to think. You know, maybe if censorship was a bit looser back then, you know, something like City of the Living Dead would have got. Although that did get released by
Gates of Hell.
KNC. Yeah, no, it was released as City of the Living Dead, but I forget.
Oh yeah, KNC video.
Was it KNC or was it KTEL? One of the other labels.
I'm pretty sure it's KNC, and it's got like some kid running, and it's not even in the movie. That shot.
Yes, because the background was like a light blue color.
Yeah, yeah.
And it had the most random, unused shot from the film that you would never even associate with this film.
I know.
Because you've got, you know, the classic cover that, you know, what's the name? That Cinema Cult have used with the gravestones, with the faces. You've got the Gates of Hell cover that I think Blue Underground used. But yeah, I saw that. I think I actually owned that release, that VHS. And you actually need to remind yourself of what film it is. Yeah. And I think that's what I love about the Cinema Cult release. The Screaming Kid. It's that right at the end.
Yeah, I know, right at the end. And I believe it's the alternate like cut that wasn't actually in the movie.
Yes.
The Arrow release actually has some nice artwork as well. It's custom artwork. Sometimes I think custom artwork works, and sometimes I feel the original poster just does it justice. I think in this case, the original poster is just awesome.
And I have seen I saw the previews of the upcoming 4 Cinema Cult releases, which I guess we should mention. All Flies on Grey Velvet.
Let's discuss them now. I'll bring them up.
Okay.
Probably know them off by heart, but obviously they were they're not on Shock or ScreenPop's website. They're actually on Easy DVD. Somehow leaked out, but the titles are going to be Demons 1 and 2, like you.
Yep. Like in a double feature sort of thing.
Yep.
I love how it takes like, you know, Easy DVD, which was once such a thriving hub.
It was.
You know, of a store, and it's now sort of become this, you know, sort of untapped source of, you know, Blu-ray and DVD shopping, and that's the one place we had to get this knowledge from. I find that quite.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's become quite an obscurity now, Easy DVD, because like in its heyday, that's where you would go. That was like the main place.
I think that's where I started my DVD expeditions back in the. I remember finding the Suspiria 2-disc, again, slipcase, digipack.
Yep.
And at the time, what I thought was an obscene amount of money. Oh, how I've grown since then. I think it was like $34.90.
I was in the same shoes.
You know, and, you know, then out of nowhere, they just sort of fizzled out. And, you know, I never really understood why. Because I thought they were great.
It was just, they had too many stores. And, like, I don't think there are any left now, physical retail stores of.
No, actually, I don't think they're not. At least not in the Sydney area. I don't know about other territories.
Some in Northern Territory.
I guess they need something.
So Yeah, I remember the same thing. I actually bought the 3-disc Suspiria edition back in Easy DVD. It was an import, US import, and it was like fucking.
That was like, the was that the Anchor Bay?
Anchor Bay one, yeah, 3-disc one. It cost me like $65, I think, locally, and I was willing to pay that because I was so excited I could have it. I was like, yay! Yeah. Then I discovered obviously the wonders of the interwebs and ordering through there. So
yeah,
easier. So yes, so onto the releases. Sorry, I got sidetracked there. Easy DVD Memories just brings a tear to your eye.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so we've got obviously Demons 1 and 2. So this is going to be a double feature. Arrow Video actually released that as a double feature on Blu-ray, and same with Synapse, but they only released it as a steelbook through their website, so it's a bit of a pain to get that title. So it's an easy option, just getting it here locally.
And that was released by Umbrella back in the day,
yeah, on DVD. Yeah, Umbrella. They have the rights to everything, Umbrella.
They do.
Yeah, they did.
We could bang on about Umbrella for a while, but we won't.
We'll save that. We'll save that for another day.
We'll save that for another time.
Entice the viewers. And obviously, so I'm very excited about Demons. It'll be interesting because, I mean, Demons 2, it's funny for what it is. Let's have a look. So we've also got Phenomena coming out on Blu-ray locally, which is pretty exciting.
That's pretty exciting.
I love the artwork. And that's the thing about the artwork, again, coming back to it, is that they actually have a unique image not found on any other Blu-ray release around the world. So they tend to choose the more obscure ones. So yeah, Phenomena. We've also got Peter Jackson's Braindead, which is a pretty big title because the US one's out of print.
I remember talking about that with you the other night, how it goes for obscene amounts of money now.
Yeah, like $90 US.
Like eBay.
Yeah.
The US Blu-ray edition of that. And I'm very excited about that film. It's the sort of film that, like, as an Australian, I feel like it should just be viewed by anyone and everyone living anywhere near here or New Zealand. I just think it makes me proud to call myself, you know, Australia. Well, I know it's not Australia. It's some sort of link to the rest of the world. And considering, you know, the stuff that Peter Jackson did go on to make.
Yeah, that's very significant. Really significant.
Between that and Bad Taste and Meet the Feebles, which I think Bad Taste, Umbrella, did they own that as well?
No, I believe that was
released. That got a pretty good DVD release.
Yeah, that was released by like a mainstream studio like Sony, I believe. Because they own the rights. I remember the covers like from the director of Lord of the Rings. I'm like, what? Okay. Yeah. There's this alien giving the finger on the front. I'm like, what? But
didn't you go on to do stuff like Heavenly Creatures as well?
Yep. And
with Kate Winslet or something.
Yes.
The fat chick from Titanic.
Yes, that's right. And fat chick. And and also obviously he went on to do the wonderful The Frighteners.
Yes.
Yeah, but this movie, like Braindead, I think was, or as it's known in the US, Dead Alive, because there already is a movie called Braindead. This awful sort of it's kind of like a thriller. It's also on Umbrella, but
is that the one with Bill Paxton?
I think so. Yeah. I think that's the one.
And there is another film called Dead Alive. It's a Takashi Miike.
Yeah, Takashi Miike movie.
I think was it a trilogy or a two-parter? Sort of like a like a mini series.
It was like a trilogy, I think, from what I recall.
But that might have even been Dead or Alive. I might be getting mixed up here.
Relating to Dead Alive? Because there is a fighting game called Dead or Alive to make it even more confusing.
Yes, there was.
Yeah, but I think Braindead was kind of the point where Peter Jackson knew what he was doing as a filmmaker professionally, because it feels just so professional in comparison to his other work, which felt just very amateurish, like an amateur.
Yes. But no, I love Dead Alive, Braindead, however you want to bloody call it.
Yeah.
I think it's a great film, and I can't wait to see it. Because you own the US import Blu-ray copy. I have not seen that.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to see the picture quality of it, and just to see the intestines getting strewn apart all over the room by the lawnmower and glorious Blu-ray. I really can't wait for that.
Glorious blue. The interesting thing is, I got it for about $10 on Amazon when it was still available. But Lionsgate have lost the rights to a lot of Blu-rays, and that was one of them. The print was actually the Dead Alive title sequence. I'll be surprised if this is actually the Brain Dead title sequence. Because the VHS one was.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, just as you were about to mention that, I was going to mention, I still hold on to my my original VHS copy of Brain Dead, the local release with the embossed, you know, inflated cover. It's just awesome, and
it's like one of those 3D old school
I think
holograms.
Going back to the Cinema Cult release, I think that's one of the main things I love about them. It's that they're recapturing that, for want of a better word, that magic. I guess, like, I was born in '87, so I grew up sort of at the tail end of VHS, and then, you know, we started getting, you know, a lot of the sell-through stuff later on in the early '90s, and then later on, DVDs and now Blu-rays. And I still remember, like, strong memories, and I think a lot of horror aficionados can relate to this. The whole nostalgia aspect of going into a video shop and just picking up these covers and just, you know, not even knowing the actual film. And, you know, the film itself could be like, you know, the crappiest, shittiest film you've ever seen. You know, bad acting, bad dubbing, bad script, bad plot.
Bad transfer.
But yet you would see these covers and you would be transported to this other world of, I need to see this. Like, this just looks so bloody and gory and fabulous. And I think that's what I love about these Blu-rays.
Yeah,
and obviously we know these films. We know a lot of them are pretty good, and we're going to talk about them, like The Fury and The Burning.
Yeah.
You know, some of them are decent films, but I love that it's recapturing that nostalgia that I think a lot of us have.
So the final title they're releasing at the end of the year will be Four Flies on Grey Velvet, if that's correct.
Yes, I'm very, very excited about that one. Very excited about that.
It's pretty cool, and the artwork's unique once again. It has this really beautiful yellow cover.
Yeah, it's that really lurid. I mean, again, not so much for the film itself, but it's more obviously what the film represents. I mean, for those of us, you know, Dario Argento fans, you know, it's 1/3 of his Animal trilogy that he made. Right. I think, was this the third in the trilogy after Bird with the Crystal Plumage, then Cat o' Nine Tails, and then Four Flies and
the quad trilogy.
Yes, and I guess it's more to do with the fact that, you know, the film itself, I mean, you know, it's an interesting film. It's hard to compare it to his other films that are maybe a lot stronger in terms of visuals or style, like Deep Red and Suspiria and Tenebrae. Or even like Inferno for that matter. But I think, you know, considering that, I think, who else has released this on Blu-ray? I think Shameless in the UK released it.
I think so.
On Blu-ray. I don't know if has Arrow released it?
No, Arrow hasn't released it. I don't think there is a US release of it yet, to my knowledge.
No, so that's why I think it's pretty. But remember, this film, weren't there a lot of rights issues for many, many years over who actually owned the rights to it?
Because it never got released on DVD till like later on the DVD lifespan. That's what I think. I'm trying to think about it.
I actually think I own a bootleg hardbox German or Austrian edition through, was it Retro Films? It was some, you know, company.
Running in a garage.
Pretty much. And it's just, I mean, it's a fun little film, and I love the use of yellow because obviously, you know, Dario Argento, he's known for his early giallo films, and giallo was like an Italian genre of like, I guess you can kind of think of them as like sort of slasher, psychological thriller-esque, but always with a very unique Italian flavor to them.
Yeah,
and they of course are based on pulp novels of the 70s. Which had very bright yellow covers, and giallo is an Italian word for yellow. So I like that they've done their research there. They've tied it all in beautifully.
Tied it nicely. There you go.
Very, very nice job. I'm very much looking forward to that release.
Yeah, same here. Well, to be honest, I'm gonna get. I've actually never seen it, so I know as an Argento fan, I feel shocked and appalled and disgraced.
agree. I mean, it's good to watch with a pretty open mind.
Yeah.
I actually find it interesting that, you know, of the 4 releases, and obviously, you know, these are the first Dario Argento films that they're releasing, and if Cinema are listening, I hope they're the first of many. But they're both so far removed from one another, because obviously Four Flies is something he did right at the beginning of his career, and then Phenomena is something that came much later, like mid-late 80s, and obviously his style had changed significantly since then. I can't even talk tonight.
Because there was no there are no supernatural elements in Four Flies.
Not so much. It's more in the style of something like Bird with the Crystal Plumage. So
yeah, that's what I thought.
You've got the black-gloved killer, and you've got, you know, the stalker slasher aspect.
Yep.
Again, not as violent as some of his other films. If you're looking for the violence of, like...
So that's it came out in the mid-1960s, so I guess, like, obviously film-wise, the gore genre hadn't exploded, so generally speaking. Only in the US, but not in Europe.
And even in terms of his other, like, later giallo films, things like Deep Red, where he took, you know, the giallo formula and he made it, I guess, more stylized. I think he also brought the giallo genre to a more mainstream audience. And again, there are a lot of other directors who were dabbling. I think, because what happened in Italy, at least, there were so many trends that came one after the other, so the directors at the time would all kind of mimic one another. So you had the whole, you know, when the spaghetti westerns came big, they were all making those. And then when the whole police dramas, and then the police dramas came and they all started making those. And then, of course, this giallo style came out. So you've got people like Sergio Martino and Aldo Lado and...
even early Fulci.
Even early Fulci and things like Don't Torture a Duckling. You know, New York Ripper to a degree, but again, like, I find it hard to lump Fulci in with anyone. I think he just
he's in his own
stands with his own and I love that they've actually. I'm just looking at the releases now. There's 1, 2, 3 Fulci films that have, you know,
for one label. That's very impressive. I mean, some labels can barely get the rights to one of them.
So you've got The Beyond, City of the Living Dead, and what's the other one? House by the Cemetery.
House by the Cemetery, yep. Classic Fulci.
It's a pretty good lineup, considering that, you know, Cinema Code have only been in existence since...
It was like late 2012, by the looks of it.
So not very long at all.
No.
They already have 3 Fulci films under their belt.
Yeah, all definitive versions.
Definitive versions with, you know, beyond wonderful supplementary material like City of the Living Dead. I love that they've put things like an interview with his daughter, with Antonella Fulci, and she kind of reminisces about what it was like being on the set and what it was like working with the actors. I love all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's just awesome in general. Especially, like you're mentioning, most of these genres got copied off other genres. I mean, zombie, I think, happened by just luck because it was meant to be a Dawn of the Dead ripoff, but then it gained its own sort of world. And that's what I just love about Fulci, is because, like, he was intended to, you know, rip off something else, but made something original.
And, you know, considering he would go on to be known as, you know, the Godfather of Gore. The Maestro of Gore and Maestro of Terror. Like, these are pretty big names. And again, you look at his late films like Demonia, and, you know, it's...
Cat in the Brain.
Cat in the Brain, I think, is awesome. And, you know, the Grindhouse release...
Well, that's what I was saying is one of his better final movies.
Is just pretty... You know,
I hope they get a Blu-ray release. Come on, there's got to be some sort of Australian distributor that can pick that up. Wink, wink. Because I don't think it's never been released here. No, nothing subtle at all. No, it's just like I don't think it's ever been released here locally, to my knowledge. There hasn't been a local release of that movie, and I think that people should discover it for what it is. I mean, it's an awesome little sort of 8.5 homage where he turns the camera on himself.
And a very hyper gory homage.
Hey, it's art house, right?
It's totally art house. Very.
Yeah. You see kid's head get chopped off with a chainsaw. It's just these things happen in 8.5, right? From what I've been told.
I think, but it's also great for people. I mean, I kind of felt by the time I got around to Cat in the Brain, again, like I said, it was only through that Grindhouse release, which again, like for a DVD release, I think that's a pretty definitive release.
Yeah, with the holographic cover.
And I thought, yes, and you watch it, and if anything, it makes me want to investigate all of his earlier films that I might have overlooked, because it actually has footage of his other films, like I think Sodom's Ghost was one of them.
And there was one where I'm trying to think. There was one in Cat in the Brain where this guy bashes his wife with like a wooden plank, and
is that the one where he ends up cooking and eating her?
Yeah, where he's cutting her up with a chainsaw. I don't know what movie that was from, or whether that was shot.
Sodom's Ghost?
I think it might.
The only one that sticks out to me is Sodom's Ghost, mainly because it's got the word Sodom in it. So,
120 days. Yeah. So we'll move on. What we'll do now is, and just one other thing. I mean, just while we're still on the label, I mean, just the significance this has. I mean, pretty much, I think that this is setting the benchmark, and other distributors should just follow along. I mean, it's highly influential what they're doing, and it just proves that anyone can do it. It doesn't have to be, basically Shout's gone all out here, and I've been waiting years for something like this to happen here locally.
I actually had to pinch myself when I started seeing this stuff released. I actually thought it was sort of a joke at first. I thought it was like because I discovered it online at first. I would see people posting about all those releases, and I'd be like, is this just has someone just made up these releases and they're just bragging about something that
they didn't got the rights to these? Like, what the hell? I think that one night I posted on your Facebook page and you're like, what? No, it has to be bullshit.
I honestly could not believe it, because I'm like,
neither could I.
The Beyond, House by the Cemetery. I'm like, no, this stuff doesn't get released on Blu-ray in Australia. Like, come on.
In Australia, of all places.
We've all got the multi-regional players, and I'm like, this is dead on serious. This is happening. And then you've got them releasing stuff like the Blood for Dracula and Flesh for Frankenstein.
Yeah, that's never been released anywhere else.
No.
And the biggest thing I was going to say was the price point. Like, I was expecting these to be at least like $35, $40 on average. Like Shout Factory charges.
Price. I'm just amazed at how cheap they are for what you're getting.
Yeah.
And considering also how easy they are to obtain. I mean, JB Hi-Fi is my, for want of a better word, my mecca when it comes to local, DVD, Blu-ray shopping. You can walk in. The fact that you can walk in 2014, you can walk into a JB Hi-Fi and buy City of the Living Dead on Blu-ray in Australia, I think is pretty bloody cool.
Even 5 years, not 10 years ago, that was unthinkable. That was unimaginable. You'd have to track down this old crappy Siren DVD, I think, that was extremely rare to come by, and it was about $35. And the print was, I believe, 4x3, if I recall.
Yes, and I think I own that that particular release, because that was released. I think there was a whole slew of them. There was City of the Living Dead, The Beyond, Hannibal Ferox.
But they look like bootlegs because they didn't have proper ratings on them.
They were like the dodgiest covers ever. You got them and you're like, is this even legal? Because it's got like that tiny little R rating,
which looked like the VHS days.
No real classification on it, and you're like, am I really buying something that is it illegal? So, and the prints weren't fantastic. They were bare bones. There were no shred of any sort of special feature on them, and they were easily between 30 and 35. Up to $40
we have
each.
Those scalpers on eBay because they were so rare. They were going for crazy prices on eBay, just because of the obscure
to this day, I wonder if they even were legitimate. Really, I wonder.
I'm trying to find.
Legitimacy.
I think I have it here somewhere, but I've got my City of the Living Dead one, and there's just something off about that. I don't know. It's just something dodgy. That was made in someone's basement.
At the time, you know, the thought of even finding anything like that was pretty exciting, and you'd have to like rummage through, you know, shelves and shelves full of DVDs until you'd finally find that one that would just sort of shine out to you. And, you know, the lengths that we had to go to at one point to find these films, and now they're just so easy to obtain. And
well, that's what I was going to say, because Four Flies on a Grey. Sorry, I'm getting the words mixed up. Grey Velvet, yeah. The reason I never saw that movie was because it was so hard to obtain. And I got to the point where I just gave up, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to bother tracking down this movie because I just really cannot be bothered. So now I can actually see it in a legit release on Blu-ray, and that's just unthinkable once again. It's just amazing.
I'm really pumped at the special features. Like, I can already predict, you know, a slew of special features. And I would always feel cheated. I don't know if you remember on all the Umbrella, when they went through their whole Dario Argento fixation, when they would... Yeah. I think they released like 20 of his films. And, of course, that was one that never got released. And each one of those releases had the, like, the Dario Argento, like, documentary that went for, like, an hour or so.
It was the same documentary on every disc.
It was the same document. I think it was called, like, An Eye for Horror, and that also got released in that, there was another, like,
the collection?
Individual, no, there was an individual Umbrella release that had that. Yeah. I think there was like a Toby Hooper one, a John Carpenter one. Yeah. It was called like Masters of Horror.
That's right.
Anyway,
it's the same documentary.
You know, well, they would constantly reference this film, Four Flies on Grey Velvet, and you would feel cheated as a, you know, Aussie horror fan, because you're like, there's no way we can see this film unless, you know, you track down a bootleg
that looks like a VHS,
Dutch VHS copy of it that would be so granulated and terrible, and, you know. So we've come a long
days.
way.
The dark ages.
The dark age. I think we've come a pretty long way, and I think Cinema Cult is definitely bringing us into a new age.
It is, yeah, a digital age.
Definitely.
So what I'll do, I guess, like, we'll move on now, and I think we'll get to the point where we'll just run down the releases and just give a quick recap of each one, so at least the viewers know what's available on the label. I think we'll focus on the Blu-ray ones for now, and obviously we can do another podcast on the DVD ones later. Another follow-up to Cult Cinema. Cinema Cult Part 2. Yeah, stay tuned, kids. So, scrolling up, their first release, because obviously they've been releasing on Blu-ray, and I remember seeing them like, what is this? And I picked up a few of them because I didn't really know what it was at the time. There was a few titles like Brain Damage, Deranged, Driller Killer, pretty significant titles. Gothic, yeah, just pretty rare and obscure titles.
Was that the Ken Russell one?
Ken Russell one, yeah.
Yep. Which, again, like the VHS, to this day, like, you find it for crazy, stupid prices on
like on eBay.
For some ridiculous reason. I don't know why.
It's not even that rare, and it's a roadshow release. I'm just like, what? What's wrong with you people?
Yeah. But yeah, I remember getting pretty excited just at the thought of, like, you know, some of the films that were getting DVD releases.
Yeah.
Like Deranged, I think that's a pretty solid film.
Yeah, with the Home Alone neighbor guy.
Yeah.
That's a serial killer. And it's kind of funny, that movie. It's a documentary type. But yeah, I mean, it was interesting because I found these movies and I looked a bit more into the company, and obviously I'd been following Shock for years because they released those Troma DVDs and a few other pretty rare and obscure titles as well, like Bronx Warriors they released, for example, on their old label. Yeah. Bronx Warriors, the Warriors riff-off, which is actually better than the Warriors. So it's interesting, and then obviously I went on their site and I did a bit more research, and I discovered that they were going to be releasing this Blu-ray catalog, and that's when I sent you a link one night, and you were like, "What the?" So I'll just smash through the Blu-ray releases. So starting at the first few releases that they did were not so generally horror related; they were more, as the title suggests, cult. So the first three were released on the 3rd of July, 2013. And it was a set of 3, and it came with Masters of the Universe, Vanishing Point, and Paths of Glory. So that was kind of the initial batch. And I remember seeing them. I do have, the only one I haven't got is Masters of the Universe. I have got Vanishing Point and Paths of Glory. but at first, my initial reaction was, oh, okay, interesting. I was interested, but it wasn't until the second batch that really got me intrigued. Did you recall any of these releases? I mean, Masters of the Universe, for example.
I remember seeing them. Again, my tastes aren't quite as varied as yours, John. My tastes are a little bit more honed in.
Yeah.
I remember seeing them and being somewhat curious, not to the point of, like I said, like I know what I like and what I don't like, and I already know that.
I know too.
I know a film like Paths of Glory, as much as it's been, heralded as a great film, and I'm sure it is. I already know in myself that I wouldn't watch it. But I remember I was more impressed with the packaging and the actual physical release, because I'm pretty sure I was in a JB Hi-Fi one day. I think it was either Vanishing Point or Paths of Glory. I can't recall which exact one it was. And just thinking... I remember, like, the first thought I had was, oh, imagine if they did this with horror titles or with gore titles, and thinking, oh, that's never going to happen.
Your prayers got answered.
Put it back on the shelf, kept walking, thought, nah, moving on. And yeah, that's when that second batch came out. So what was in the second?
The second batch.
The second lot.
But just quickly on that first batch, Vanishing Point did influence Tarantino for Death Proof. So it's kind of like this sort of...
but then again, what hasn't he been influenced? He got influenced by the bloody garbage man taking the bloody garbage bins out. Like
Garbage Day. I put Garbage Day in Django. Garbage Day, motherfucker. Yeah, no, he takes everything. But Vanishing Point, Paths of Glory, I mean, it is a good movie. It's directed by Stanley Kubrick. I guess this is one of his earlier works before he obviously went off to more artistic levels. But Kirk Douglas, he does play a good role, and it is a surprisingly good movie. It's an anti-war film. But obviously I see Dom, you're just like, yes, can we move on now?
No, look, what it is, like, that's what I mean. Like, I'm all for a company
I know, and
wanting to keep its appeal wide and
that's
trying to appeal to different markets of people. Like, obviously, someone like you, like, you'll be more prone to delving into other genres beyond horror. And I guess, like, you've got to remind yourself that, the emphasis is on cult cinema. So anything that falls within that realm, whether it be gore, whether it be, like,
even comedy,
sexploitation, ozploitation, anything that falls within the cult realm. But yeah, I probably won't be buying those, but that's just me.
Yeah, but I think...
No disrespect, that's just me.
No, I understand, but... myself, because obviously I do like all types of movies, but I am very restrictive on my taste. I think it's just a great way to get people into the label, so they're like, oh, look at this, oh, Vanishing Point, oh, what's this, The Beyond, oh, and then that will get them into the path of horror. So it's a good way to pull them by the neck with a cane, so generally speaking. So literally getting pulled in. So round 2, which was pretty exciting. This was actually 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes, this is 9 releases, and they all came out on the same day, and it was pretty epic. So obviously the first one was Dead and Buried, which yes, Dead and Buried, good movie. I think I have the Blue Underground release, I believe, and I rebought it because it's just so beautiful. The second release was Vampires or Vampyres, however you like to pronounce it.
No, Vampires. You were right the first time. Not to correct you, but I think it's just Vampires.
Vampires, yeah. A more classier Vampires. And that was...
Great film.
That was another great film. And once again, I didn't get the Blue Underground release because that came out before this one. I'm glad I waited because this appears to be a more superior version.
And is that the Spanish... I think, is it Spanish?
Oh, it's British. It's English.
It's British, that's right.
Yeah. It feels like some sort of European,
that's what I mean. Every time
Italian
I go
movie
towards it, I think it's something much more akin to like a Jean Roland or Jess Franco, like something that has that kind of Spanish-French vibe to it. But yeah, it's a British film.
It is
great
British,
film.
Yeah. And it has, I believe, two models that were very big in Britain at the time.
Was one like Anushka?
Yeah.
No, Anoka Jib.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try and pronounce it.
Don't even try, Dom.
Yep, moving on.
But it was once again a fantastic release. And it's actually a really good movie. Surprisingly, it's not trash. It's actually a good gothic vampire movie. Just quickly before I move on, I just want to mention that on the Dead and Buried release, did we get a trailer? I think that was the main feature.
Dead and Buried. I'll just pull up my copy of it
because my copy's downstairs. I think it's.
It doesn't actually say on here, but yeah, I think
there's a trailer on it. Yeah. Okay, so obviously we've got Vampires that had a trailer as well, and then the next release in this epic line of the 20th of November was Lisa and the Devil / The House of the Exorcism, a double feature.
Yes, the Mario Bava film with Elkie Summers.
Yep.
And yeah, that had the bonus, which is pretty cool considering, anytime that a release has, an extra film as a bonus feature.
It's always a win.
It's always a win.
Yeah, and you're paying, and the thing is, that's the cool thing I love about Shock is they don't charge any extra. It's the exact same price to get another movie. They're not greedy like certain companies that would charge you an arm and a leg just for an extra terrible, awful movie to go with.
Who shall remain nameless in this podcast.
Yes. Zip. I know nothing. But yeah, it's once again another, and the artwork is just gorgeous. I think it's.
I know it's so
psychedelic.
So psychedelic, like that background image of Telly Savalas, just looking so menacing, and I think he's just a great time capsule in and of himself.
Yeah. Considering
the other films he was in at the time, like Faceless,
Faceless.
The Franco film.
Yeah.
I could bang on about that film all night, but I won't. I'd love to see Faceless get released by Cinema Cult. Just quickly, I know I'm just like throwing it out there, but like,
yeah.
hint,
hint,
but,
hint, wink, wink,
wink. Yeah, precisely.
Yeah.
We've got Dead and Buried, Vampires, Lisa and the Devil.
Yep. And then obviously next title. So that was a fantastic release, and it was a double feature as well. Still, same price, no extra, nothing dodgy.
No extra charge.
Exactly. Yeah, no charge. And so this is when the Fulci films started coming, and obviously the other two releases was from that period was The Beyond and City of the Living Dead. And I think we kind of went on about them quite a bit.
We did. And the City of the Living Dead, the bonus features, it's just exhaustive. There's just so even like The Beyond, you've got a good Cinzia Monreal. She's in the film.
She remembers a Q&A with
there's a Q&A with Katrina McCall. There's a
David
commentary
Warbeck.
with David Warbeck.
That's a very interesting commentary because that was on the original DVD, I believe, and it's good they ported it across because yeah, and a new commentary as well
with
Cullen Waddell and you're Italian, you can pronounce it.
Antonella Fulci, his daughter Antonella. I love hearing her recollections of because obviously she had nothing to do with the actual production of the film or acting in his films. Yeah. Unlike, Argento, who's just, he's just notoriously casting his daughter in all these really bad
nude scenes,
bad casting choices. I think it's just, that's funny in itself. But yeah, we'll move on. We've talked about
the Beyond moved on. Enough Fulci love. But one just quick thing I want to mention, I just find it cool how they've actually gotten old special features. They haven't ditched them because that commentary with David Warbeck, because David Warbeck has passed away, and to have his commentary is pretty special, especially that they didn't chuck it, they kept it. So once again, definitive. So moving on, we also had LifeForce, which is...
Yes, now, I know you particularly love this movie.
Yes, I love this movie. I saw it, I recall seeing it late one night on TV, and I didn't know what it was at first. It's a sci-fi movie, sci-fi, horror, vampire movie. And it's this epic. It's
got a lot going on.
It does. It's this epic, big budget sci-fi movie, and this is Hooper's. Like, this is his epic, as far as I'm concerned. Like, obviously he's done classics, Chainsaw, even Texas Chainsaw Part 2, I'll give him that. But I think that Life Force is really his grand opus, because he actually had full creative control, large budget. It's the ultimate. It's the biggest budget B-grade movie you'll ever see. That's how I'll describe it.
And it's so strange. Like, it really has this strange, eerie atmosphere to it. You really have to go in there like guns blazing. You just have to suspend all disbelief and just go with it. It's odd, but I that's what I love about it too.
Yeah, you have a naked vampire walking around the whole movie.
Yeah, I think I actually heard about this film through you, and then I read about it in Rue Morgue magazine, and never really known anything about this film beforehand, and it's just surreal. And I think that's got special features wise, it's got trailers and a making of.
And a few TV spots and gallery,
which helps to explain what the hell's going on in it.
Yeah, because it was I mean, it was a bomb as well. It was like, it cost like $25 million to make, and that was ridiculous even by today's standards. Like, I don't know who greenlit this movie, like what they were smoking, what crack pipe they were smoking out of, but I'm glad they greenlit it, because you have this, and this is what killed Hooper's career, essentially, this movie. So for anyone curious, pick up the local release, because it's Blu-ray. It will have that making of that explains what the hell it is. It's based off a book, The Space Vampires, I believe. But I highly recommend it.
It's presented in a great aspect ratio. Sound quality is perfect. Picture quality is just pristine.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
It's a great little film.
And once again, a beautiful, attractive set, nice slipcover, and they all match.
That's what I mean, and a great cover on it, like just the attention to detail on it. It's just so beautiful.
And the cover that they used was the same as, I believe, it was the same as
the US.
Yeah, Screen Factory, which is I normally, me and custom art, I'm not terribly a fan, but this one was gorgeous. It's a very nice custom art. Cool. So, moving on. Next release, The Burning. So, an awesome slasher. It was actually the first movie produced and written by the Weinstein brothers. So this is their little off-the-ground movie that made them the multi-millionaires they are today. It's go ahead, Dom.
Oh, no, you go.
No, I was going to say it's a slasher, but it's one of the more interesting slashers, because apparently there are urban legends that this was made before Friday the 13th production started. So it's kind of, there are fans have defended this movie saying, oh, this was the original Friday the 13th. So that's my impression of people in their basement. But that's what they were saying.
I was going to say, wasn't this in that notorious Video Nasties list?
Yes.
Back in Britain in the 1980s, when I think it was only one particular scene that was heavily cut at the time anyway, but because of that one scene, this even ended up on the Video Nasties list. And when you watch it, in my opinion anyway, it doesn't warrant being... Like, for me, the Video Nasties, again, we can bang on a whole podcast just on those.
Yeah, Nasties.
But you've got a film like Cannibal Holocaust, which rightly deserves to be on that list.
Yeah.
Not that I ever think it should be banned, because I'm, totally disgusted by censorship.
Same.
But that's a film that, you've got films like Salor or The 120 Days of Sodom, Cannibal Holocaust, films that you watch them and you can kind of see where people were coming from in that, in
that time period.
In that time period, these were extreme films that I think warranted, the reputations they got. A film like The Burning.
One, go.
Okay, so with The Burning, it's a film that I think, when you consider that it ended up on the Video Nasties 1980s, the whole Margaret Thatcher, era of, video censorship.
Yeah.
You had films like Cannibal Holocaust, and other films, like even Cannibal Ferox to a lesser degree, films that you would watch them chopping. And you could see in a way, like, not that I'm in favor of censorship, but in a way you could see where they were coming from.
Yeah,
you can understand why these films were persecuted. You can understand why they ended up as a video nasty. But then you've got a film like The Burning, which I feel unjustly ended up on that list because it's actually, apart from one scene, it's a pretty standard film, and it's
standard slasher.
It's a standard slasher. If anything, it's a pretty straight film in my opinion. Like, there's nothing that really warrants it.
No,
well, the reputation that it got from that.
It was just that raft scene. That was it. Go on.
No, sorry, you go.
No, I was just saying it was just that one scene, and the thing about it had an all-star, at the time, all-star cast. You got George from Seinfeld, Jason Alexander, a young George going around with hair. It's
and
the thing about it is it was produced by the Weinstein brothers. So I mean, it's just not. It wasn't produced like some back alley Italian sloppy productions. It's an actually pretty well. It's a well-made film. Like it's trying to be A grade. It's actually an A grade MGM slasher, I believe.
Yeah, and I was just thinking of the old VHS release that we had in this country. I can't remember if it was CBS Fox or Thorny EMI.
Yeah. I think it was Thorny.
I think it might have been Thorny. And do I remember correctly? Was that an uncut print?
It was. Yeah, it was at the time. It was the only one of the rarer releases in the world that was uncut.
And I think it only got. Did it get an R rating at the time, or was
R-rating.
It was always R.
Always R. I never had issues in this country.
I think it's a classic example of how misleading and misappropriating cover art can be. Because, like, even with the cinema cut release, I love that they've the artwork that they've chosen to use
release
for the film, and it's a film that I feel like this amalgamation of image, reputation versus actual film. Because you've got the scene which only lasts for a few seconds with the scissors and with the not scissors, with the
hedge clippers.
With the hedge clippers,
and then you blink and it's gone.
But it's got this aura around it, and it's got this whole vibe of, what am I going to see? Am I going to see more? Is it going to keep? But then it's like it just kind of fizzles out after that one thing, and it's like, okay, we're not going to get any more gore after this.
Yep, that's.
But I think it's a pretty decent film. But I do think it's like the reputation is a little bit unwarranted. But again, you look at the special features that you get on this, and it's like Tom Savini. He talks about the effects
fire memories.
Blood and Fire memories. You've got behind the scenes footage.
Yep, trailer.
Trailer, makeup effects. And I think that's something I've noticed too. With each subsequent release, the special features just get more and more pronounced.
Yeah, I'm noticing that. I think that they're discovering that they can push it as far as they want because there is a market that's slowly... my theory is that the first few releases are kind of trials to see how they went, and they're seeing that's picking up an audience, and now they're saying, all right, we're going to go all out with these releases. And the thing about it is, it's interesting because it's pretty much a carbon copy of the US release. And this is I have the Scream Factory one in front of me, which I imported from the US. It cost me about $35 to $40 to import.
I do like the cover of that one.
Yeah,
too.
people.
Cool.
There are a lot of people that complain it looks like a sort of a death metal band cover, like it's just Red River of Blood.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think that our local release is very competitive in terms of price because it's pretty much exactly the same disc in the series.
When you consider that you're paying between... I mean, I haven't paid more than $18 for one of these. I've paid between $12 and $18.
Oh, yeah.
When you consider the price that you're paying for, on average, I've paid up to like $35, $40, $45 for one Blu-ray. I think...
Yeah, from the US.
Between $12 and $18, and then not only having a great film with a great print, plus the supplementary material, I think that's a pretty decent... it's a pretty decent deal. So,
oh yeah,
I think again, they can't really be matched for price. I think it's for what they're delivering to us. without asking too much in return, I think that's a pretty good incentive to go out and like buy these films. So
exactly. Well, one thing I was going to mention is even if you get a JB sale for like 20% off, you're only paying about $15, $13 for these releases. And some of them recommended price is only about $13, $14 a JB. For Blood for Dracula, it's only about $13 disc. Just like, it's crazy.
We love JB Hi-Fi. Just
JB.
throwing that out there in case that wasn't obvious. We love JB.
I live in JB.
Moving on.
Okay, moving on. So, Burning, interesting slasher, but I must admit, before we finish up on that title, I do like the killer. I do like the Cropsey, what his name is. Seeing his face is pretty phenomenal, the makeup. Alright, so moving on, we have, another Fulci, House by the Cemetery.
Yes.
Which we did briefly discuss at the beginning. Once again, this is a unique cover that's only available to Australia. I have not seen this on any other Blu-ray release, to my knowledge, as of yet.
And I think, if I remember correctly, the old Roadshow VHS had the same cover.
Same cover.
But I think it had the border. It was like sort of a vibrant purple or a magenta color.
Yeah.
The lettering was in a lime green. I own that release. I still have it somewhere.
Yeah, I found it on eBay.
And it's just like, I just remember it's sticking out in my mind, just the colors used. But I think or at least part of this cover image is pulled. I think the guy with the knife at the top, I think that's pulled from that release.
Yeah, it's very nostalgic because I think that's why they went for it. For those old school fans that remember that release.
I do love this cover. I much prefer it to the was it the Blue Underground release with the monster on the front cover?
Yeah,
I didn't. That's one cover I must say it's just never sat right with me. It was always like every time I'd see that cover, it was like, someone can do better.
Well,
and I think have done
the problem with that cover is that I felt it's the same cover that's been used since the original DVD release back in like 2000, and that was obviously trying to show off Photoshop. So they put this monster in the middle that made no sense, and it's an ugly cover. It's pretty bad.
It's ugly. It is ugly.
Have you seen the Arrow one where it's got like the naked girl on the ground and the monster coming up?
Oh, yes.
The problem with that cover is it gives it off as being more of some sort of bad slasher. If you have a look at that, it doesn't really seem like a haunted house movie, but it is a combination of a haunted house slasher, I guess. But I'm just saying, pretty much our local release is probably the best cover in the world so far.
I would say that as well.
No favoritism.
This is. I mean, I think even for Fulci, I think this is sort of like his forgotten film.
Yeah,
and it so often gets overshadowed by the biggies like Zombie Flesh Eaters and The Beyond, and a lot of people tend to forget about this one, and I think it's that's quite unfair because there's a lot of good stuff in this too.
Oh yeah, and it's gory as hell. It's the third one in the Gates of Hell trilogy, so generally speaking, the final chapter,
which started with The Beyond,
The Beyond, and then
City of the Living Dead, aka Gates of Hell, and then
House by the Cemetery.
And I love that they've all got this Southern Gothic, Louisiana, New Orleans, set in the bayou kind of atmosphere to them.
Yeah.
He obviously wanted to tap into something with these films, and I think he achieves it. They've all got that very grimy... I love the atmosphere of these films. And of course, the music used... and
that soundtrack.
Constant Fulci collaborator Fabio Frizzi.
Hold on, I'm just gonna get something. Sorry, I actually love the soundtrack so much I had to import the UK vinyl.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
It's the soundtrack's fantastic. I mean, the opening. It's probably one of his more. But all Fulci soundtracks are great. But I think the House by Cemetery is probably one of the more catchier ones in terms of that organ at the beginning, that opening score. It's a fantastic soundtrack, and it just puts you in the mood for a haunted house movie.
Film. And I love the scene where the girl gets stabbed from the back, and the knife goes through the front of her mouth.
And that's the first few minutes. You're like, huh?
And you just wow, like, you know, I remember when I first watched this, and I didn't really know anything. I think it actually was the old Roadshow tape.
Which was censored to bits, like it was rated M, I think.
Yes,
they had the hell cut out of it.
And it was only like years later when I saw an uncut print of it, and it was like, I just remember being gobsmacked. I thought, my God, it's almost like it was this undiscovered gem, you know, in the Fulci canon, and it took me years to finally watch it. And like, this is an uncut print, and again, uncut. You know, it's just like, that's why I was saying before about the special features just getting more and more with each
this
release.
Is jam-packed, this release. Audio commentary.
I'm really, really impressed that they've got an interview with Janetto De Rossi, who was, you know, he created all the wonderful gore effects in it. It was, you know, even if you look at the zombies in Zombie Flesh Eaters, like that kind of clay, almost like an oatmeal look to the zombie's face. Like, he created all
like
this
corpses. They didn't look like actors with makeups on. They actually look like real corpses. That's the impressive thing about it. And
I love too that they sort of combined, not to bang on about Zombie Flesh Eaters, but I love how they combine that kind of voodoo mythology in with the modern, what he was trying to do with them. But anyway, back to House by the Cemetery.
House by the Cemetery, I think that the reason it's such an underrated gem is because it's a bit of everything. It's a slasher film. It has elements of the beyond, the supernatural elements. It has the zombie flesh eater elements, because there's a zombie, technically sort of a zombie in it. It's like a greatest hits of Fulci.
House film.
Yeah. It's
got a lot going on.
I call it greatest hits.
You know, and I love the child actors that he uses in his films, in this and in the Beyond. Like, I think they add another element to his film.
The dubbing in this is pretty bad. Wasn't the kid dubbed by a lady, a woman, I believe?
Yes.
It's like, oh no, that little girl's looking at me again. It's just like, oh my God. But that's what adds to. I think it adds to the surreal charm of it, the surreal nature. Just hearing these kids sound like adults. It's just like. And that kid was in Manhattan Baby, I believe. Or no, was he? Yeah, I think it was another Fulci film. I'm trying to think of it.
It might have been Manhattan Baby, or was it in? Because some of these children, what I loved was like between Dario Argento and Lucio Fulci, they tended to use the same child actors. Like the little girl that was in the little girl in The Beyond was the same child actor that was in Deep Red, I believe.
Yes.
The little girl who killed lizards and got a real, like, homosexual kick out of it.
On it. Yeah.
Much to the dismay of her father. Little strange.
Where are they now?
Strange touch. Bad scene, that one. I think
she wasn't acting.
She wasn't acting. It was method acting, if anything. I'm trying to remember the child in House, but I'm sure we've seen it before.
Yeah.
But also with Manhattan Baby, that had an alternate title too. I think that was Eye of the Evil Dead, I believe.
Yes.
That's another thing we need to remember with these films. Each one of these films has multiple, sometimes dozens titles. Of different titles.
Zombie 21.
Release. Zombie 21, depending on what country, the film was released in, depending what cut of the film you got, they had multiple titles. Like, because House by the Cemetery, it's got that whole Fraudstein, Dr. Fraudstein character. I think
there was like an alternate title, something, The Mad Experiments of Doctors. Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
It's just, but the thing I like about cinema cult is how they're obviously choosing the best and most appropriate titles to put on them. They could have chosen anything really, but they're choosing the more appropriate ones that suits the film. What Fulci or the director originally intended them to be.
Well, exactly. Like, you look at a film like City of the Living Dead, or even The Beyond. Like, in Italian, it's L'Aldilà, which does translate as The Beyond. And then you've got like City of the Living Dead, which is Città dei Morti Viventi, which is City of the Living Dead. So it's the literal translation. And then of course it became Gates of Hell in the US, and
yep.
you know, they took on these other titles. I think we've banged on about House by the Cemetery for long enough.
All right. As you can tell, viewers, we obviously have a thing for Fulci, so
we do.
So we should probably move on. No favoritism here. We're Fulci nuts, as you can tell. Okay, so moving on. So, all right. So recap: we had The Burning, House by Cemetery. Okay, now this is a release that probably really excited you, Dom. Maniac.
Yes, I'm very, very excited about this film. A film that I cherish to this day.
Same here.
It's a film that I saw when I was very young and very unexposed to gore cinema.
Yep, same
or to horror cinema, for that matter. A film that, you know, just the cover art alone, as I can't even remember when I might have even been 8 at the time. The cover art
coursing on VHS.
The cover art, I remember shocking me and titillating me at the same time. I didn't know what the hell to expect of this film. And it's a film that I think, to a degree, has stood the test of time in that it's a fun remnant of the time. You look at films of that particular period, even by like directors like Frank Henenlotter, that sort of grimy late 70s
sort of Times Square rundown.
Times Square feel. You know, you've got films like I said, Henenlotter. He sort of captured with films like Basket Case and Brain Damage.
That's right. Even more mainstream directors like Abel Ferrara, who did Driller Killer, that whole sort of grimy New York, which is once again on Cinema Cult.
I find it hard to talk about Maniac nowadays without mentioning the remake of Maniac,
which was surprisingly good.
Which was brilliant. I think it was a very well made. It's one of the better, if not best, remakes I've seen. I think we've talked about this at length in the past.
Yeah, we'll dedicate an episode to it. Well, one thing I was going to mention was obviously the remake was produced by the original director, Bill Lustig.
Lustwig or Lustwig?
Lustig. Yeah. No, sorry, not Bill. William. Sorry.
William Lustwig.
Lustwig. So he produced it. So obviously his charm was in the remake. But it's just it's a grimy film. It's a very dirty film. You feel like having a shower after watching it. It does leave an impact. It's not. People call it a slasher, but I see it more of a dark psychological thriller. It has got slasher elements.
It really is. I feel that it's a film that, you know, the main character of Joe Spinell, I feel like, again, like you compare it to the remake, and I feel that there's different sorts of sympathies that you develop with the Joe Spinell character versus the Elijah Wood character. Yeah. I feel that, you know, we're entering into the world, into the psyche of this man. And it's almost like it's a very tragic story, because here's a man who just cannot seem to relate to people, and he feels like he has to do these obscene things
and have a lot of mannequins around him.
And I really love this film. And Caroline Munro, again, you know, she's was a Bond girl. She was a very sexy young British actress who was used, I think, in some sort of rum campaign back in the 70s or early 80s.
Yeah.
Very, very beautiful.
She's stunning.
And again, you know, she was in other films we've mentioned tonight. Like, she was in Faceless. She did a few of these more trashy European horror films.
Also, that Troma movie, Last Horror Picture, I believe, which it was kind of like a remake of Maniac. Had both Joe Spinell and her. Have you seen that movie, Dom? It's pretty obscure to come by.
What was it called? Sorry?
The Last Horror film.
Was that the one that had the guy that was a serial killer, and it started off with him taping over another film, and he would go out, and he was just like a regular average Joe, and he would just go out and kill people just for the fun of it? Are we thinking of the same film?
No. Sorry, Dom.
I don't think we're thinking. See, that's the thing with
but
horror.
That's the thing with horror. They all mismatch
same
up.
fucking title, and yet it's just two completely different films.
I know, exactly.
Okay, we're thinking of two very different movies.
We are. I like to know the one you're talking about. I'm just curious.
I want to know the one that you're talking about.
After the show, we'll exchange what it was. Yeah, we'll figure it out. Okay, so cool. So Maniac, classic. I believe the only feature was a trailer, but just to have this movie in HD is good enough for myself, to be honest.
Yes. But I think you hit the nail on the head. It's the type of film you really want to have a decent shower after watching it. You feel dirty. And I believe, was the Umbrella release back in the day, the DVD release, was that uncut? I can't actually remember if it was.
It was, yeah, because I remember it having a nice big red banner saying uncut, uncensored for the first time in Australia. Because I believe the Video Gold's VHS was censored, to my knowledge.
I think that it would have been cut. Yeah. But it's a film that I love. Like I said, I watched it at a very young age, and it left quite an impact on me.
Changed my life path.
It changed my... it totally took me on a new path, you know? And it's a total between actual content and cover art and reputation. I think it's a film that all combined together, it just makes for a very enjoyable viewing experience. It does. And again, we'll probably talk about it in another episode, but the remake, I think, is just as worthy of attention.
We'll dedicate something to that
remake. We'll definitely talk about it more in the future. Okay. So, probably move on?
Yes, moving on. So, we've only got a few more to get through. Next one is... Okay, Dom, it's not really horror related. Fear City.
You can field this one, John. I'm just
I'll sit there nice and quiet.
I'm just sitting here twiddling my thumb.
Now we play the waiting game. I don't want to play the waiting game. So, Fear City is another film by Abel Ferrara, and Ferrara, if I pronounce that. He's a director who did Bad Lieutenant, Driller Killer. That'll interest you, obviously. He also did Miss 45. He's done a lot of interesting New York movies. His earlier films are more in the sort of exploitation sort of genre, but obviously as he moved on, he got a bit more mainstream. King of New York. Have you ever heard that movie? It's got Christopher Walken. Yes, that's his movie. Same director.
I actually enjoyed that film, and I think that got released by Umbrella too back in the day.
I think so.
I remember correctly.
But his films are... It reminds me very much of Maniac. His movies, they're very grimy, and they show the darker side of New York. Fear City is a similar sort of movie. It's more or less... It's just... How can I describe it? It's kind of about... There's a serial killer going around in New York City, so it is kind of like Maniac. But it's more of a sort of drama, a police drama. So I recommend it. It is grimy. It's in the tradition of Maniac. But it's more of a crime drama than an actual horror film.
So it's looking at it from, like, let's say the essence of Maniac, like from a different angle sort of thing.
Different angle, more of the detective side, if I would say, like police side. But it is very dark, and it's an MA rated film. It has got high level violence, so it deserves its place in the label. I must admit, it's pretty grimy.
Is that the one with the purple cover with? I think there's a lady, there's a woman in the middle, and she's flanked by two men on either side.
Yes.
I have seen it.
Yep.
I have been somewhat curious to check it out. And, yeah, obviously hearing, the comparison to Maniac makes me want to watch it. So
don't go in with high hopes.
You're selling it to me, so,
But he's just a good director in general. He's a talented director.
Very much.
So, moving on. Oh yes. So, anything else, Tom? That's it. No, that's it. We will leave that one in the dust. But highly recommended from my point of view. We're on the 5th of February this year. We actually got a double feature of Flesh for Frankenstein and Blood for Dracula. Two very
exciting,
excellent, and particularly rare movies because the DVDs have gone out of print. It was released by Criterion, I believe, in the US. Then that went out of print. So
they went out of print pretty quickly, I believe.
Yeah.
It seems to have this reputation of because I've noticed across multiple formats, multiple releases, multiple distribution companies, they don't seem to last long in circulation.
No.
Regardless of who's released it. Which I find bizarre, but it has to do with the rights.
Because as you were mentioning, and there are other disputes like who owns it, Andy Warhol Foundation. There's just a whole bunch of
Paul Morrissey.
Paul Morrissey. Yeah, but they're two fantastic films back to back, and they were both filmed at the same time. I actually like Blood better because it feels like it has more production values, but also it's a lot funnier, and I just find like his sidekick is just hilarious in Blood for Dracula.
I guess this is where we differ, but I do prefer Frankenstein a bit more.
But Blood for Frankenstein,
I don't love for Dracula, but
Blood for Frankenstein is I like it as well. I love it because it's more of an exploitation film. Blood for Dracula, I guess they were trying to be like, hey, let's try and make it a bit more professional. Let's just try. Make it look nice.
Now, which one came first?
Flesh.
Flesh came first.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So both.
I think we have to clarify that because, like, to this day, I still myself was wondering which one was actually first.
I originally thought it was Blood. Then I did some research.
That's what I thought. I thought Blood came first.
Yeah, it was Flesh.
I love the trashy campiness of it. I love the whole fucking gallbladder. I think it's a great film, and I just think
an excellent
kind
adaptation
of film that you can watch with a nice box of wine.
Yeah.
To accompany it. A great
and some
film.
Dessert and have some nice chocolate cake with it. I think the cool thing
it's considering it wasn't it released originally in 3D?
It was, yeah.
So
during the whole 3D explosion in the early 70s.
Yes.
Let's see now.
And we need to talk about the cover art as well.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Unparalleled, especially with the Blood for Frankenstein having the sort of flesh tone background with the words stitched together, which was used. I don't think it was used. Was Flesh for Frankenstein because they were released by Roadshow back in
on VHS. Yeah.
VHS.
They were a double feature on VHS as well.
Yes,
but
I'm just trying to think. I've seen this cover art before.
The Australian one had Udo Kier holding a head, I believe.
Yes.
And looking away. Yes. That was pretty cool artwork.
That was pretty cool too. Yeah. And I've got the release.
Same.
I love it.
And actually, the funny thing is the Australian Roadshow release was the same as Blood for Dracula. Same image, Blood for Dracula, with him with his mouth, head turned back with the blood dripping down. So.
And I think that Stefania Cassini on the floor, who was also in Suspiria, who played Sarah in Suspiria.
Yes.
Sorry, my Euro horror nerdiness.
No. Go ahead, Dom. I'm sure the viewers are that's interested as well. Not being sarcastic, being very serious. I am doing.
Oh, thank you.
I may come off sarcastic, but I'm not. I'm very serious.
Well, again, Udo Kier, considering the types of films he's been in, I think he's a great example of just concentrated Euro 1970s trash all in one person.
Oh, yeah, exactly. What was
his stories of him being in Suspiria, having to have the lines fed to him
for his 1 minute scene.
For his 1 minute scene, I love it. I love the whole mythology around this actor.
Yeah, and how he would then go on to get a big appreciation. Isn't like Pet Detective, Ace Ventura? Like what? It's like, what's he doing in Pet Detective? Like, why is he in some bad grindhouse movie?
And again, but also, since we're on the topic of these these two particular releases, the Andy Warhol ones, I believe were Heat, Flesh, and Trash. They've been released on DVD by CinemaCult.
By CinemaCult, yep.
But they haven't made it onto the Blu-ray.
So it'll be interesting if we do get an upgrade because those films, I believe, they were shot very cheap on 16mm or even 8mm. I'm not sure. I presume it was 16. So it may be a while till we get a Blu-ray upgrade in terms of finding the right print material.
And they all starred Joe D'Alessandro, who was also in these films as well.
Yes.
Who I believe was a model at the time.
I think so, yeah.
Might have even been Andy's lover. I'm
Most
probably
likely.
Putting that out there, but you know, you put two and two together, it's not hard to really
gossiping 40 years after the event.
Out.
Yeah.
Dom's keeping it classy in this podcast. No, I think you know, there was this whole you know, between Paul Morrissey and Andy Warhol, and you know, like they just tended to go from production to production. You've got the same cast of people, the same behind the scenes people,
same sets,
and same sets in a lot of them. That bed was awfully familiar.
Yeah, where have I seen that before? Even those paintings on the wall.
One you just watched.
Yeah. So our advice: don't watch them together.
I strongly recommend people to buy these.
Oh yeah, get them. And they're exclusive. Like you cannot find these on Blu-ray. I believe in Japan, but unless you want to go through, import it from Amazon Japan, pay about $60, 6,000 yen, and then have to go through a bunch of Japanese menus. It's up to you if you prefer. Unless you can get the local release for about $13.
These were these two. I have to say, in the entire catalog of what I owned so far, from Cinema Cult, these are the only two that I ordered them the second I heard about them, purely because of the rights issue of how long are these going to be around for. So I strongly recommend anyone listening to this, if you haven't bought a single Cinema Cult, I would recommend you start with these two, because something tells me they're not going to be around for long. So
pick it up as soon as you can, because it's one of those.
They're great films. They're really fun.
And the other thing, they're definitive versions. They both have commentaries.
Yes, one with, I think Frankenstein's got with Udo Kier and Paul Morrissey.
Yeah, and production stills.
And screen come with audio commentary.
Same with even production stills.
Yeah. So definitely pick those up, people.
Yeah, because I advise kids, you better hurry, because they won't be around for long. Fingers crossed, you know, they will keep the rights, because it's a great film, but, you know, don't hold your breath. Criterion lost the rights after only about a year or so, since it was out on DVD, I believe. That's why they go for like $100 US for a DVD.
I've seen them go for like, $120 for a single copy of one. So, you know, it's up to you guys. $120 versus $13.98. You know, the choice is yours.
Yeah,
really.
The choice is yours. And that's Blu-ray versus a very old, non-anamorphic DVD print. I don't know. Whatever you kids want.
Exactly.
Cool.
Okay, so I think we've banged on about those two.
Excellent. So we've got 3 more to smash through. I'm sure we can do it. You can do it, Dom.
I'm good.
Me too. I'm good. I've gotten into the mood. So these three titles. We'll start off. Obviously, the first one is The Fury.
Yes,
The Fury. So
The Fury. We both watched recently. So same. I don't know. You've watched it earlier than more recently than I have. So if you want to kickstart this one.
No, I just saw it today. I saw it many years ago on Foxtel on TV, and I remember bits and pieces of it. I remember it being very much like in the vein of Carrie, but seeing it today, it reminded me of how talented De Palma is, because it's, I wouldn't even call it a horror. There is horror elements, but it's more of a sci-fi sort of action, because he does like his action, De Palma. Kirk Douglas plays a great role. John Cassavetes is an excellent actor. I believe he only did the movie just to make money for his more independent films. It's just, I think The Fury's great. I saw it again. I thought it was, it's your typical cliche sort of Hollywood horror movie, but De Palma gore, De Palma obscure camera angles, lighting effects. It's just all around a great movie. Highly entertaining too, from start to finish. It's 2 hours. It does have its slow bits, but when it picks up, the gore factor's there. I mean, it is gory, but not, in the vein of something.
I guess we should talk about what kind of gore, like what triggers the gore in this one. Because when we talk about a De Palma film, I think it's important to talk about the precursor to the gore.
Exactly.
So obviously, Carrie, that's what I think I like about the De Palma style of filmmaking. His gore has to have a It's not like Fulci where it's like, let's just put decapitated heads just for no reason, just because
no reason. Let's just have a dog
fight. No reason at all. Throw it out. De Palma needs a reason for it to be there. So in Carrie, you've got obviously Sissy Spacek, Carrie, who's just undergone an hour and a half worth of torment from her teachers, fellow students, everyone around her being humiliated. So that's what triggers her to go full throttle. Finally snap and just completely turn against everyone around her. Huge bloodbath. In this, you've got the girl who has the psychic ability to see things that have happened in the past when she touches people, but it comes with a sinister undertone, which is she causes them to bleed. And you mentioned the angles.
Yeah.
And I think we have to talk about that scene where she's walking up the staircase. I think that's a really, really awesome scene because you've got her with the guy who owns the academy.
And she's squeezing his hand and all the blood's just spraying everywhere.
And it's getting tighter and tighter and tighter and it's just going around and around. And it's almost like a Vertigo scene.
It is because he also did a film called Obsessions, which is... Obsession was his homage to Vertigo, so he does love Hitchcock. He loves Hitchcock.
It's very obvious that he's a Hitchcock fanboy there, but he does it in his own style, I guess. His own
style, his traditional, as you mentioned, gore, but when someone dies in a De Palma film, they die. When, for example, I don't want to spoil it, but an unnamed character gets ran over by a car, she goes through the windscreen, just blood gushes everywhere. It's all over the dashboard. Typical Hollywood movie, just have someone run over. You wouldn't have just blood gushing everywhere, so it's just De Palma goodness. I love it. I think it's...
And again, you've got Amy Irving, who plays the lead girl in this, and she was also in Carrie as the one sympathetic person in Carrie's life. The one person who tries to give Carrie some sort of semblance of normality when she asks her boyfriend to take her to the prom, and she doesn't have any other agenda besides trying to be a nice person. So because this came after Carrie. Because Carrie was his first.
This was 78. Carrie was 76 or 77?
Yes, I think 76 or 77, something like that. And I actually read that his choice for casting Kirk Douglas in this, who was 61, I might add, and did a brilliant job in it, was to try and attract a bigger audience because Carrie failed to do that. So he wanted someone who would have a bigger draw, someone who was an established star, an established actor. So that's what he tried to do with The Fury.
And also we have, as I mentioned, the villain of the film, John Cassavetes.
He's menacing.
He is menacing. He's a Greek. He is. Yeah. John Cassavetes. He's a Greek actor. He's known for his more independent films because he was an indie film director, but he did these roles just so he'd make money for his own movies. But he's a great actor as well.
Rosemary's Baby as well.
Rosemary's Baby, yep. He just plays these sinister characters. This adorable character on the outside, but on the inside is the most evil person. Sinister, yeah. There's something planning.
Yeah.
He does that very well. Very sinister.
He's perfectly cast in this role. And also the actress who plays Carrie Snodgrass, the actress who plays Kirk Douglas's girlfriend, who also works at the clinic where Amy Irving attends. She had not acted in a film for 8 years, so this was her return to acting.
A big return.
I think she's quite good in it as well. You've got future stars making small appearances in this, Daryl Hannah
at the table.
At the table, Dennis Franz, he plays a cop.
Yep.
Who would later go on to be in NYPD Blue.
Yeah.
And I think even Jim Belushi was supposed to be in, and I think he still appears on screen in a very brief moment, but he goes on uncredited.
Did he? Oh, maybe he did.
Yeah, I think it's a scene where they're wearing their bikinis, they're walking along the beach or along some boardwalk.
Yeah, at the beginning.
And you see him in a very brief second, and
My 1 second of fame.
My 1 second of fame before my no seconds of fame.
But it's a great. I like it. It's a great movie. I mean, honestly, I think this is what happens when the Hollywood system chucks a film at De Palma, like expecting something. I mean, it feels mainstream. It's great production values, but it has that. I think a friend of mine said that De Palma he makes B grade movies A grade. He tends to blend both of them, so it feels very B grade, just like telekinesis. Like, I mean, amounts of gore, but the way he does it, it just, if you show it to a normal movie person, they would not suspect it to be any sort of B grade film. It would feel very A grade to them. So just on the special features, once again, this is jam packed. Now, make note. This release is probably, once again, one of the cheaper releases. It was also released in the US by Twilight Time, and that went out of print overnight. And that goes for, like, once again, 50, 60, 70 US dollars.
Ridiculous, really.
I know.
And this was released, the VHS release back in the day. This was CBS Fox, I believe.
CBS Fox, yeah, because it was more mainstream film. It was... And... The thing about this transfer is I did some research, and this is actually the UK transfer, so it's the far superior one. The US one looks very orange. It's hard to explain. So, more or less, yeah.
That just sounded really fun. It looks really orange.
Orange.
It looks like blurry. It looks granulate. It looks
orange. It's orange. But if you look at the our transfer, it's far superior. It's the one Arrow used, and we're pretty much getting the Arrow release. At a obviously local rate. And,
no, it's a very clean, very crisp print. I think, very clean.
So the extras, let's see, we'll go through them. You
Extras,
get Blood on the Lens, an interview with cinematographer Richard H. Klein. Spinning Tales, Fiona Lewis starring on The Fury, and The Fury, a location journal, and obviously the trailer. So pretty jam-packed.
So I was going to say one of the locations, I believe, was the same location used in the Blues Brothers film. So there's that kind of there's a connection to that as well. And I think most of it was actually filmed in Chicago, or at least a good majority of it was filmed on location.
On location, yeah,
like in Chicago.
That estate.
That's what I love. I love the scene where Kirk Douglas is in the back of the van with his girlfriend driving the van, and he's trying to get change, and like just that night drive in, and just I love that, and I like the scene also with the cops. It's all like I agree with you. It's sort of like it's a bit ludicrous to label it as a horror. It's not really a horror.
It feels more action, sort of like spy, like a spy film. Because it has that spy element. It
starts off with that big, the boat explosion in the Middle East, and it sets the bar for this isn't a regular horror. Yeah, I don't even think it's a horror, to be honest. And you just sort of go along for the ride, and you've got Kirk Douglas bloody jumping out of windows, and
like Spider-Man jumping from
gate crashing these people's homes, and he's tying them up.
Yeah, then the old
he's got that
lady
woman who's sympathizing with him. It's like
and then she gives him a bag of cookies. I'm like, what? Then he gets attacked on the street as an old man. Just like
it's pretty funny considering he was 61. I mean, more power to him. I think he's great. I love him.
Cool. So
my respect has grown tenfold since seeing him in this. I have to say, I think he's great.
Oh, he's excellent. And same with he was also in Paths of Glory. But he played a very strong performance in that as well. It's more of a courtroom drama, Paths of Glory. Cool. So
put that on my to watch list.
Oh yeah,
really.
Yeah. Just cross off everything else. Paths of Glory goes straight at the top.
Set a night aside for that.
Paths of Glory. Set a week aside for that. So we'll finish off. We've got two more, and we've been going for quite a while. Good. We've given some in depth. So the two here we have the Abominable Dr. Phibes, or is it Phoebes? I say Phibes.
I say Phibes.
I say Phibes, yeah. And Dr. Phibes rises again. So this is another. I love how they're doing these double features. I think they're great. Like they're releasing. back to back.
You need to talk about the badass cover art on this.
It's so cool. I mean,
so cool.
The Abominable Dr. FIBES. I mean, the thing about our local release, I haven't seen that image on any release
ever
in the world ever. It's so unique. I believe
it's so striking as well with the pink.
Oh, the pink, yeah.
Background, the organ, and you've got him in white. I think. It's probably my favorite cover in the whole.
Yeah, I'd say so too.
Cinema cult catalog so far
because it's something that they chose. It's their own unique image. I think the old DVD was just like some sort of B grade, sort of awful Photoshop, like put together of Vincent Price on the front. Do you recall the DVD?
Yes, I actually think because I've seen multiple images used for the cover. The most popular, I think, is the one him kissing the woman who's got the.
That's the one arrow used.
And then you've got the one that I think our local just cheap release, which had
just
the standard
Vincent Price and looked very tacky and photoshopped, early 2000s
very tacky,
Photoshop.
And you could tell there was no attention paid to anything.
They're just trying to chuck it out there.
Just trying to put it out there, just to cross it off the list to say, here's another Vincent Price film out on the market.
Yeah, hurry up,
and then
fanboys!
You get something like this, and it's just so well put together, and you can tell that they showed a lot of care with this release. Yeah. I love it. I absolutely love it.
So I mean,
and again, I bought these the second I heard about them.
Same. I remember being in JB at my local JB at Broadway, and I was like, "Have you got them yet?" And they hadn't even put them on the shelves yet. So she unboxed a fresh batch. I was like, "Oh yay, goody, Dr. FIBES, I have it." I know,
fresh batch. I love it. It's like you think of them as like freshly baked cookies. It's like, oh, they're so fresh.
They just came out of the oven.
They're still hot. You can't touch them yet. They're still boiling hot.
Like, can't I touch them?
I've just got to mention the tagline: "The revenge is the best medicine."
Yes,
I think that's just a great tagline.
Gorgeous.
And again, this is a very special film to the founder of the Church of Satan, Anton LaVey. He had a particular love for this film.
Really?
And he actually
I didn't know that.
Yes, he actually believed that the main character of this was a sort of mirror image of himself, and he saw a lot of himself in this character.
Interesting. Because I know he was a fan of Evil Speak.
He loved that film as well. Yeah. There were a few films that were quite high on his radar of his recommended viewing list. But this was a film that he very much he had a particular love and fondness for. So
there
you go. It's approved by Anton LaVey, founder of the Church of Satan. So
it's thumbs up approved. 2 thumbs up.
2 horns up, hey.
2 horns up.
Get those
2
horns
pitchforks.
Up,
2 pitchforks. But honestly, I think. Just quickly, we'll talk about the movie itself. It's a strange movie. It's self-aware that it's a B-grade movie, I think, and it's campy, deliberately campy. The deaths are awesome. It's hard to have
Vincent Price in a straight film. I think there are only very few exceptions to the rule. I think Witchfinder General, The Conqueror Worm, I think that's probably one of the few that I can sit there and say he presents another. It's one of those few moments you see another side of his personality come out, that really menacing, evil, and you sit there and say he's capable of this. But I think it's hard for him to even do a straight film.
I know what you mean.
With those few, you know what I mean? And like you said, this is very in on itself.
It is. It's like winking at the camera.
It's very much so.
Because obviously it's an English production, so it's an English film around that early 70s, like when, obviously Monty Python was emerging and very strange things from Britain was emerging. It's the thing, and the other thing is it's quite, you think you're in for some sort of comedy, and then you watch and the death scenes are quite horrific. Or not horrific, but they're just quite gruesome, not what you'd expect for an M-rated film. Some of them, I mean, it's obviously not full out gore, but some of the ways they die are quite interesting. So I'll say that. Killer mask, killer rats. Like blood being drained. It's creative. But I love this film. I think it's great. It's fantastic. Can't say any more about it.
And considering that he's, an organ player doing all of this, I think.
And digging up his dead wife, resurrecting her.
I think it's very, it's in on its own joke.
Yeah.
But I think it's so, even to say like, oh, it's so bad, it's good. I wouldn't even say that. No. I think
it's a well-made film.
It doesn't fall into that category. It's just, I love Vincent Price. I don't,
Same.
I'm a bit one-sided when it comes to him. I see no fault where Vincent Price is concerned. I think that he does a lot with material that he's given. He presents.
He becomes that character. He becomes that role.
Yes, he fully embodies that person.
Yeah, and he does such a fantastic job. Yeah.
Just quickly, to just segue into Dr. Phibe. Oh, and just before we actually get into that, I'm looking. I don't think this got any. I don't think it received any special features other than
a trailer. And a trailer for the sequel.
And yeah, for the sequel, again, I think it's the only PG-rated film in the films that we've talked about tonight.
It is. The sequel. Yeah, Dr. Phibes. I think.
And again.
That cover art. I love that cover art.
I think it's, again. I think these two definitely, in terms of cover art, I think, they're among. Because again, like Vampires, we've seen that cover up before. Lisa and the Devil, we've seen it before. Dead and Buried. But you've got these two films where it's almost like I see it as Cinema Cult really taking a chance.
Yeah.
And saying, let's do something completely different. And I think they've succeeded.
Oh, they have. And I'm seeing this trend with their upcoming releases too. Like Braindead, that's a unique image that I haven't seen on many releases. So it looks like they're going a sort of alternative way in terms of artwork. And it's working because very attractive covers. I think the sequel, that was on the Roadshow VHS, I believe. The Spider in the Eye,
I think you're right. I've seen that image before, but definitely the abominable. Can't even say it. That is definitely a unique image. I've never seen it before.
No, anyway, it's a rare production still by the looks of it.
Not in poster art, not in day bills or alternate UK, US, other import. I've never seen that picture before.
No, it looks.
I'm used to a cover art.
Nah, but it just sums up the film so well, like perfectly. When you look,
and
at
it's
and
such
it doesn't
a great.
Sell Vincent Price, like hey, Vincent Price is in this. Hey, look, let's just put a big photo of him on the front.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's almost like they've really taken a chance. Like we don't need to put Vincent Price's face to sell this, or we don't want to put Vincent Price's face to sell this. To put it in another way. Like let's take it in a completely different direction. It's it's very arty.
Yeah,
it's
it is.
Scary, if anything. I think
it's fantastic.
Considering what was the first film we mentioned tonight, Dead and Buried? Was that the first one?
The first horror title?
The first horror title?
Yeah, Dead and Buried was the start of it.
Between Dead and Buried and now Dr. Phibes Rises Again, two completely far removed films from each other. And all the films we've talked about tonight, it's almost like you can cross off a different genre with each title.
That's what I'm saying. It's something for everyone. Like even if you don't like gore Italian films, you'll love some of the other films in the range.
You might love The Fury. You might love The Burning.
It'll also broaden your taste as well because you'll be like, I'll give this a go, and then you discover it's absolute gold.
Like I might never have given Life Force a chance because I'm not very inclined to watch sci-fi.
Same here.
Influenced films. The few sci-fi films that I like have a horror element.
Event Horizon.
Yes, exactly. So again, you've got a film. It completely pulled me in with that cover art.
Yeah.
It's reading about the synopsis of it, reading about the behind-the-scenes stuff. I'm like, I've got to see this film, and I'm glad I did. So there you go.
So I haven't seen the sequel as of yet.
I haven't seen
it
either. I'm yet to watch it.
We have to. We're going to do a review. I've actually done a review on the site for the first film, and thankfully, Shock.
I still need to check that out.
Yeah,
I will
check it out. Yeah, you better. The sequel, I don't know. I've heard mixed things. I just have no idea what it's about. It's in Egypt, I believe the sequel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. In Egypt, that's ring a bell.
Well, I have to watch it as well because I'll make sure, obviously. So
obviously, I'll watch it and I'll do a review on
it. About it,
because Shock wants us to do a review on that one, so I'll jump on it because it seems review worthy. Because
definitely,
it's a sequel, and I love sequels.
Just reading the back cover of this, with the aid of the enigmatic, never speaking Vulnavia.
What?
Vulnavia, played by Vali Kemp. Another thing I love about these European, British, 70s films is just the actresses that played in them. A lot of the time, they were just one-hit wonders.
Yeah. Or export stars.
Or export stars. You've got these, beautiful Russian or Yugoslavian models like Anushka and, Elke Summer, and even all the British stars like, the ones that were in The Wicker Man. I'm just trying to think of the name now.
Oh, and yeah, and
Britt Eklund,
and that wasn't her nude scene. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
that wasn't my nude scene.
Could you imagine The Wicker Man getting a Cinema Cult Blu-ray release?
Oh,
now, hey.
Well, I believe it's been released in the UK by Studio Canal. I have the Blu-ray, but if we could get something local, that would wink, wink,
wink, wink.
Once again,
do you remember that release that from many years ago? It came in that hardwood, or like that plywood.
Yeah, I have it around here somewhere. Yeah, the literally the wicker box, the wooden box.
Literally the wicker box.
The wicker box. And this one.
Yes.
In case you don't know, viewers, I'm holding it in my hands. It's a nice set. That was during Anchor Bay's glory days. But anyway, sorry, sidetracked by The Wicker Man. Such a good film. I guess every film could be on Cinema Cult. That's what we're saying. Anything.
And that's what's so great about it. And that's what, we're just touching on. You don't know what's coming next, and they can pretty much cover anything within the cult label, within the cult genre. So you can go from, gore, extreme gore of City of the Living Dead and Maniac, and then you've got stuff like Dead and Buried, which is a lot more subdued. Then you've got things like Blood for Dracula, Flesh for Frankenstein, Vampires.
They're all
you've got more mainstream stuff like The Fury, which would appeal to maybe a more casual horror psychological thriller moviegoer.
Yeah. Dr. Phibes, which is kind of for like B-grade fans or campy sort of comedies.
Campy. You've got Life Force, which might appeal to someone who likes a bit of sci-fi. So there really is something for everybody.
There is. Label. It's something for the whole family.
It's good fun for the whole family.
The kids can get the Beyond, and the parents can get Past the Glory. So
there you go.
There you go.
I mean, like, just seeing them all together, all lined up, it's a really handsome looking collection.
Yeah, it's like because you feel proud when you look at a collection like Criterion or even Arrow, but it is nice, very attractive. They all match. They all match. Well,
well, they've got to match, otherwise you can't line them up together.
Exactly. It reminds me of the VHS days, Roadshow. They all matched. Like you just.
And not to bang on about it, but with Umbrella, when they changed, when they went through their own change and they swapped the Umbrella logo for the something very far removed. I think
literally
it's just a U now.
Oh it's
just like a very thin
U
yellow
with an umbrella on top. Yeah.
And you can't have it next to your old umbrellas because they don't match.
Yeah,
it's all about matching.
That's all the same with Criterion when they change their logo. It's like, what the hell? I've just bought 300 old releases. Now you want me to change it? Like, no.
Jesus Christ, John.
Hey, I'm not that bad. I know someone who is. He bought like 300, then had to rebuy them all.
He had to. He had that gun pointed to his head. Yeah, no matter. He had to rebuy them all. You buy these, I make you. God.
Criterion. So I think we should start wrapping it up at this point.
Yes, because it's been like over 2 hours we've talked.
We were aiming for a good 30 minutes, right?
We were. Oh, I think we just went over. Just tad.
But I think that's a great thing about this label is this. We haven't even covered the DVDs, and like we can devote another episode to DVDs.
You didn't cover.
No, because I originally planned. Okay, we'll cover the DVDs, then the Blu-rays. Be here for like 6 hours.
Fun. I enjoyed this, John. This was good.
No, it was great. Loved it too. So that was our first episode. It'll be up. It's obviously, if you're looking at it now, it's on the website. I'll upload an audio file so you can download it for your iPhone and or Android device. So it will work on all formats. I'm being very nice. You know, some podcasters just make it for iTunes only, which means that even yourself, Dom, you would be excluded from listening to that podcast. So I
would be. God. All the love, iTunes, God.
You
really?
Would be
you can feel the warmth just emanating from them. Not. Sorry.
So I'm going to be very kind, and obviously I'll have the audio file so you can listen to it wherever you are. We will upload a version to YouTube so you can listen to it there and stream it. But overall, I think that sums up the entire label. Just the Blu-ray section. We've still got DVDs to cover, which we will get to.
So all together, how many Blu-ray releases have there been thus far? Is it 17?
Let's have a look here. 18.
I think, because I've got 14,
18.
And they're all the horrors.
18.
18.
Yeah, because it's still got Vanishing Point, Paths of Glory, and Masters of the Universe. And
Fierce City, which is...
Fierce City, yes.
Yeah. Which I'm actually curious to check out now after, hearing you talk about it, so...
Yeah.
I might give that a go.
Yeah,
maybe.
I would give it. I recommend you've seen Driller Killer.
Yes, I do love Driller Killer.
Yeah, Driller Killer is great. The next movie I recommend is probably Miss 45. That's one I recommend.
Something tells me I have seen it, but I can't really remember now. I'll have to look into it and see if it jogs my memory.
You've probably seen her in the nun suit, the gun.
Yes,
famous.
Yes,
pretty iconic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, awesome label. Please support Shock. Recommend that you pick these up. You can find them anywhere locally. Obviously, JB. No favoritism there. Wink, wink.
You'll be shocked by their low prices, people.
Yeah. So. You'll be shocked.
Shocked. It's definitely a label worth supporting.
Yep.
We should all definitely get behind it.
Yeah. I just hope that international listeners that you can import them from places like JB Hi-Fi, Easy DVD. The shipping rates are only about $2 internationally, so even if you live in foreign countries, you can still get these releases.
And some of you will want to have all these releases all lined up on your shelves. They make for a very good-looking collection.
A unique collection, because if you show it to your American friends, you can be like, hey, look at this. Next to Scream Factory, I have Cinema Cult. And people are like, what the hell, Cinema Cult? Well, blah, blah, blah. Listen to our podcast.
Pass on the love.
Keep it handy.
There you go. Keep it handy.
Cool. So I think that pretty much sums it up. Anything else you'd like to mention, Dom?
I think we've covered a lot, and I definitely I look forward to many future releases from this wonderful company, and I also look forward to many future podcasts talking about these films, and yeah.
So I think that obviously yourself, we also have team members who are part of this cast, and we also have potential guests, some that couldn't make it tonight, some that will be joining us in the future. Just other people in general have a passion for this type of thing. So, hope you enjoyed it. That was our podcast. Support Cinema Cult. Support Shock.
And thank you for listening. It was great.
It was great. All right. See you later, guys.
Bye.
Bye.